Ji-hoon Park stood in the Grand Council chamber and tried not to show his nervousness. The room was massive, built for species much larger than humans. Above him, the crystalline ceiling reflected light in 1,000 colors. Representatives from 40 different alien species watched from their elevated platforms. Most of them looked down at the human section with barely hidden amusement. He had been a diplomat for Earth for 12 years now. He had faced insults, threats, and condescension from species that saw humanity as newcomers to the galactic stage. Today felt like a trap. King Thrazkul of the Vrexian Empire stood at the center platform. He was enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, with a body covered in sharp crystalline plates that caught the light like diamonds. His species were warriors, proud and strong, and they made sure everyone knew it. The king's voice boomed across the chamber. "I come before this council to announce a great union between my people and the humans." The king's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. "To show our friendship, I offer a precious gift. My youngest daughter, Princess Saralyn, shall go to live among the humans as a symbol of our bond." The chamber erupted, not with applause, but with barely contained laughter. Ji-hoon heard the chittering of the insectoid Kresh, the deep rumbling chuckles of the Gorath, and the high-pitched whistles of the Finn that indicated amusement. Even the usually serious Tellian ambassador had a smirk on his face. Ji-hoon felt his stomach drop. This was the trap. He looked at his fellow human diplomats. Ambassador Chen looked grim. She leaned close and whispered, "We can't refuse. It would be an insult to the entire Vrexian Empire." "Bring forth the princess," King Thrazkul announced. A door opened at the side of the chamber. A small figure walked forward, and Ji-hoon understood immediately why the galaxy was laughing. Princess Saralyn was tiny compared to her father. She barely reached 2 meters tall, which was short for a Vrexian. But it wasn't her height that made her stand out. Her crystalline armor, which should have been smooth and sharp like her father's, was fractured and incomplete. Cracks ran through the plates on her arms and chest. Some areas had no crystal growth at all, leaving her underlying skin exposed. She walked with her head down, her movements careful and slow. She was defective by Vrexian standards, weak, shameful, and her father was giving her away like trash. Ji-hoon felt anger burn in his chest. He had seen many cruel things in his years as a diplomat, but this was particularly vicious. The king wasn't offering friendship. He was making a joke. He was saying that humans were so weak and pathetic that they deserved his weakest, most worthless daughter. The laughter in the chamber grew louder. The Kresh ambassador actually stood up and clicked his mandibles in open mockery. "How generous, mighty king, to give the humans a princess who cannot even fight. Surely this shows how much you value them." More laughter. Even some of the human delegation looked uncomfortable, unsure how to respond. King Thrazkul's eyes gleamed. "My daughter will need special care. She is delicate. I trust the humans will provide for her needs." The way he said it made it clear he expected humans to fail, or to reject her outright. Ambassador Chen gripped Ji-hoon's arm. "We need to think about this. If we accept, we look like fools. If we refuse, we create an enemy." Ji-hoon watched Princess Saralyn. She had stopped walking and stood alone in the center of the chamber. Her head was still down. Her hands were clasped in front of her. She looked like someone who had learned long ago that resistance was pointless. She looked like someone who had never been wanted. He thought about Earth, about the millions of refugees humanity had welcomed from wars and disasters across the galaxy, about the founding principle of the United Earth government, that every person had value, regardless of where they came from or what they could do. He thought about his own sister, who had been born with a genetic condition that left her unable to walk. The doctors had said she would never contribute to society. She was now one of Earth's leading astrophysicists, working from her wheelchair and brilliant mind. Ji-hoon stepped forward. "Ambassador Park, what are you doing?" Chen hissed. He ignored her and walked to the center of the chamber. He stopped in front of Princess Saralyn. Up close, he could see more details. Her fractured crystals were actually beautiful. creating patterns like stained glass. Her eyes, when she finally looked up at him, were a deep, violet color. They were intelligent eyes. Sad eyes. "Princess Cyrillin," he said quietly. "Would you like to come to Earth?" She stared at him. Her voice was soft, barely audible. "You do not have to accept me. I understand if you refuse." "That's not what I asked," Jihoon said. "I asked if you would like to come to Earth." Something flickered in her eyes. Confusion, maybe, or hope. Yes, yes, I would." Jihoon turned to face King Throzkul and the council. He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "On behalf of Earth and humanity, I accept Princess Cyrillin as an honored guest and friend. We are grateful for this opportunity to learn from Vrexian culture and to welcome the princess into our community." The laughter stopped. Now, there was confused silence. They had expected him to refuse, or to accept with obvious reluctance. They hadn't expected genuine acceptance. King Throzkul's expression darkened. "You understand she requires special accommodation? She is not like other Vrexians. Every person is unique," Jihoon said calmly. "We will make sure she has everything she needs." The king's mandibles clicked with irritation, but he couldn't back out now without looking foolish. "Very well. The princess will depart with you immediately. I have already sent her belongings to your ship." Of course he had. He had been so certain this would work. Jihoon turned back to Cyrillin and offered his arm. "Shall we go?" She looked at his arm like it might be a trick. Then, slowly, she placed her hand on it. Her touch was light, hesitant. They walked together out of the council chamber. Behind them, the murmuring started. Jihoon heard snatches of conversation. "The humans actually took her? What are they thinking? This will be entertaining to watch. Let them talk. Let them laugh." Jihoon had made his choice. On the transport back to the human ship, Cyrillin sat in a corner of the shuttle. She hadn't said a word since leaving the chamber. Jihoon gave her space, but he noticed she was trembling slightly. Finally, she spoke. "You will leave me at the nearest station, won't you? You do not have to take me all the way to Earth." "I understand." Jihoon looked at her. "Because that is what my father expects. This is a test. He wants to see if humans are foolish enough to actually keep me." Her voice was bitter. "Everyone knows I am worthless. I cannot fight. I cannot serve the Empire. I am a shame to my bloodline." "Who told you that?" "Everyone." She looked down at her fractured crystals. "My father, my brothers, the court, they are right. Look at me." Jihoon was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Have you ever been to Earth?" She looked up, confused by the question. "No. Would you like to see it? Really see it, I mean." I do not understand." Four. "I'm asking," Jihoon said gently. "What would you like to see first when we get to Earth? Mountains? Oceans? Cities? We have all kinds of places." Cyrillin stared at him. Her violet eyes were wide. "You are serious. You actually plan to take me to Earth?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because you're a person," Jihoon said simply. "And you deserve to be treated like one." For the first time since he had met her, Princess Cyrillin smiled. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. 3 weeks had passed since Cyrillin arrived on Earth. She stood at the window of her quarters in the diplomatic residence and watched the city below. Seoul sprawled beneath her. A mix of old and new, nature and technology. Green parks wound between buildings. Flying vehicles moved in organized patterns through the air. In the distance, mountains rose against the sky. It was nothing like her homeworld. On Vrexus Prime, everything was sharp and angular. Buildings were made of crystal and metal, designed to show strength and power. There were no soft spaces, no places of comfort. Beauty meant hardness. Weakness was hidden away. Earth was different. Confusing. Soft, in ways that should have meant weakness, but somehow didn't. "Princess?" A voice called from her door. "May I come in?" "Yes," she said. She had learned that Ji-hoon always asked before entering. On Vrexus, people entered whenever they wanted. Privacy was for those who had earned it. And she never had. Ji-hoon entered carrying a tray. He did this every morning, bringing her breakfast himself, rather than having servants do it. She still didn't understand why. He was an important person, a senior diplomat. He should not be bringing meals to someone like her. "I thought you might want to try something new today," he said, setting the tray on the table. "These are called croissants. They're from France, a region on Earth. And this is tea from Korea." Saralyn approached the table carefully. The croissants were golden and flaky, smelling of butter. She had learned that humans put great importance on food, not just as fuel, but as something to enjoy. Another strange concept. She took a small bite. The pastry melted on her tongue, rich and delicate. "It is good," she said quietly. Ji-hoon smiled. "I'm glad." He sat down across from her. "I wanted to talk to you about something. Dr. Yoon from the medical center would like to meet with you. She's interested in understanding more about Vrexian physiology." Saralyn felt her crystals contract slightly. A defensive response. "She wants to study my defects. She wants to understand you," Ji-hoon corrected gently. "There's a difference. And it's completely your choice. You can say no." That was another strange thing about Earth. People kept telling her she had choices. The concept was still foreign. "I will meet her," Saralyn said. What difference did it make? One more person seeing her flaws. Dr. Yoon's laboratory was different from the medical facilities on Vrexus Prime. It was bright and clean, but not cold. There were plants growing in containers along the windows. Pictures on the walls showed various alien anatomies. The doctor herself was an older woman, with kind eyes and gray hair, pulled back in a practical bun. "Thank you for coming, Princess." "Doctor," Yoon said, "please, have a seat. I want to start by saying that this is not about finding something wrong with you. I'm simply curious about your unique biology. Unique. Not defective." Saralyn sat down slowly. Dr. Yoon began her examination. She used scanners and sensors, taking readings of Saralyn's crystalline structure, her nervous system, her internal organs. She asked questions about what Saralyn could feel, how her body worked, what caused her pain or discomfort. She did not look disgusted. She did not make pitying sounds. She simply worked with focused interest. After an hour, Dr. Yoon sat back and looked at her screens. Her expression was strange. "Princess, may I ask you something? On your home world, were you ever tested for cognitive function, intelligence assessments, problem-solving skills, that sort of thing?" Saralyn felt confused. "No. Why would they? I cannot fight. That is what matters for Vrexians." "I see." Dr. Yoon looked at Ji-hoon, who had stayed in the room. "Ambassador Park, I need to show you something." She pulled up images on her screen. They showed the inside of Saralyn's body, layers of crystal and tissue in complex patterns. "See these fractures in her crystalline structure? They're not random. They form a network through her entire body. And look here, at her neural pathways." Ji-hoon leaned closer. "What am I looking at? Her nervous system has at least 40% more neural connections than the average Vrexian. These fractures in her crystals? They're allowing her nerves to grow in ways they normally couldn't. Her brain is processing information at a rate I've never seen before." Saralyn felt her hearts beating faster. "I do not understand." "Doctor," Yoon turned to her with a smile. "Princess, you're not defective. You're brilliant. Your body traded physical strength for enhanced cognitive ability. You're essentially a genius." The words didn't make sense. Saralyn shook her head. No, that cannot be right. I am weak. Everyone knows this. You're physically delicate, Dr. Yoon corrected. That's not the same as weak. And your mind. She gestured at the scans. Your mind is extraordinary. And a read. 24-1. Ji-hoon was staring at the images. Then he looked at Cyrilin. Have you ever worked with complex systems? Engineering? Mathematics? Anything like that? Cyrilin hesitated. When I was young, before they stopped my education, I liked to watch the engineers. I would see them work on ships and buildings. Sometimes I could see where their designs would fail before they could. Did you tell anyone? Once, my tutor punished me for speaking above my station. She looked down at her hands. I learned to stay quiet. Ji-hoon's expression was hard. Your father didn't give us a burden. He gave us a treasure he was too blind to see. Over the next few weeks, Cyrilin discovered things about herself she never knew. Ji-hoon arranged for her to meet with human engineers and scientists. They gave her problems to solve. Puzzles to work through. Things that had frustrated them for months. She could often see solutions to within hours. She learned that her fractured crystals, which had always made her ashamed, allowed her fingers to move in ways other Vrexians couldn't. She could work with delicate tools, manipulate small components, do precision work that would be impossible for a warrior. She met other humans who were different from the norm, people in wheelchairs who designed starships, blind people who composed beautiful music, deaf people who led research teams, people who struggled with things others found easy, but who excelled in other ways. They didn't treat her like she was broken. They treated her like she was simply herself. One evening, Ji-hoon found her in the workshop he had set up for her. She was bent over a workbench, carefully assembling something. Her fractured crystals caught the light as her hands moved with precise confidence. What are you working on? He asked. A communication interface, she said without looking up. Current systems between Vrexian and human technology require multiple conversion steps. This will allow direct integration. It should improve efficiency by 37%. Ji-hoon watched her work. You're happy? It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. Yes. She paused, then set down her tools and looked at him. I do not understand why you are kind to me. Because you deserve kindness, but my father meant me as an insult to your people. Everyone in the galaxy laughed when you accepted me. They think you are fools. Let them think what they want. Ji-hoon pulled up a chair and sat down. Cyrilin, we don't value people based on how well they fight or how strong they are. We value them based on who they are, what they contribute, how they treat others. That seems inefficient, she said, but there was no conviction in her voice. Maybe, but it means we don't throw away people who could change the world just because they're different. He gestured at her work. I can already see it. Cyrilin felt something strange in her chest. It took her a moment to identify it. Hope. Ji-hoon, may I ask you something? Of course. On Earth, do you have a word for someone who is not related by blood, but who cares for you anyway? Ji-hoon smiled. We have several. Friend, mentor, guardian, family. She repeated softly. The word felt right in her mouth. I think I would like that. To be family. You already are, Ji-hoon said simply. That night, Cyrilin stood at her window again, looking out at Seoul. The city lights sparkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, across the stars, the galaxy was probably still laughing at her, at the unwanted princess living among the weak humans. But for the first time in her life, she didn't care what they thought. She was home. 6 months had passed since Cyrilin came to Earth. She had published 3 papers on xenotechnology integration. Her communication interface was being tested on 12 different planets. The human scientific community called her a revolutionary thinker. Some even said she was changing how the galaxy understood technology. But the Galaxy Council had other concerns. Ji-hoon sat in an emergency diplomatic meeting. On the screen in front of him, Ambassador Chen looked exhausted. The Vrexian Empire has formally demanded Princess Cyrillin's return. They claim she needs proper medical care that only her people can provide. That's nonsense, Ji-hoon said flatly. Dr. Yoon has been monitoring her health. She's thriving. I know that. You know that. But King Thrazkul doesn't care about facts. Chen rubbed her temples. He's facing criticism. At home, other Vrexian nobles are questioning why he gave away a princess to humans. He needs to save face by bringing her back. She's not property to be traded around. Under Vrexian law, she is. She's unmarried and unclaimed. That makes her the property of her father until someone else takes custody through marriage or formal claim. Chen looked directly at him. The Galaxy Council is siding with the king. They're putting pressure on Earth to return her. Ji-hoon felt cold. And if we refuse? Trade sanctions. Possible military escalation. The Vrexian Empire is not small, Ji-hoon. And many council species see this as a test. If humans defy species sovereignty law, it sets a precedent they don't like. So we're supposed to send her back to die? Chen's expression was grim. Die? Ji-hoon pulled up files on his tablet. Cyrilin gave me these last week. She managed to decrypt them from the Vrexian royal server before she left. Take a look. Chen's face paled as she read. This is a medical termination order, scheduled for 3 weeks after she was supposed to arrive on Earth. Her father wasn't just getting rid of an embarrassment. He was using us to make his execution look like an accident. She was supposed to die in human care, and he could blame us for not knowing how to handle Vrexian physiology. That's monstrous. That's politics. Ji-hoon stood up and paced. What's Earth's official position? The government is divided. Some say we should return her to avoid conflict. Others say we can't send someone back to execution. Chen sighed. It's going to come down to a vote in the Earth Council. It could go either way. Ji-hoon thought about Cyrilin in her workshop. Her face lit with joy as she solved impossible problems. How she had started to believe she had value. I need to talk to her, he said. He found Cyrilin where he expected, in her workshop. But she wasn't working. She was sitting at her bench, staring at nothing. When she heard him enter, she didn't turn around. You have heard, she said quietly. Yes. Ji-hoon sat down beside her. We're going to fight this. No. Now she looked at him. Her violet eyes were sad but clear. You cannot. The political cost is too high. I don't care about the cost. I do. She gestured around the workshop. You gave me 6 months of happiness. 6 months of knowing what it feels like to be valued. That is more than I ever expected to have. Her voice cracked slightly. I will not let you destroy Earth's future for me. Cyrilin, I have accepted it, she said. I will return to Vrexis. Perhaps my father will be merciful. Perhaps not. But at least I got to experience this. She touched his hand briefly. Thank you for showing me what family means. Ji-hoon felt anger burning in his chest. Not at her, but at a galaxy that would make someone like her think she deserved this. What if there was another way? What? There is not. Vrexian law is clear. Vrexian law says you belong to your father until someone claims you, right? Yes. So what if someone did claim you? Formally? Cyrilin frowned. Who would do that? I have no suitors. No Vrexian would want me. I would. She stared at him. You. You cannot mean marriage. That would be, not marriage, adoption. Ji-hoon pulled up legal documents on his tablet. Human law allows for adult adoption in special circumstances. If I legally adopt you as my daughter, you become part of my family under human law. And Earth's lawyers think we can argue that supersedes your father's claim. You would do that? Tie yourself to me legally? Cyrilin, I already consider you family. This just makes it official. He smiled. Besides, you're smarter than me. I'd be lucky to have you as a daughter. Tears formed in her eyes. Vrexians rarely cried. But she had learned the human habit. The galaxy will say terrible things about you. Let them. 3 days later, Earth's government made their announcement. They granted Princess Saralyn full citizenship and political asylum. Ji-hoon Park formally adopted her as his daughter, and they declared that Earth would not return any sentient being to face execution, regardless of political pressure. The Galaxy Council exploded in outrage. 7 species threatened sanctions. The Kresh ambassador called it cultural imperialism. The Gorath said humans were naive fools who didn't understand galactic politics. But something else happened too. 3 other species quietly reached out to Earth. They had members of their own people who were considered unfit by their cultural standards. They asked if Earth would consider offering them asylum too. King Thrazikul's response was swift and furious. He sent his eldest son, Prince Krazathor, to Earth. The prince was everything Vrexian culture valued, nearly 4 meters tall, covered in perfect crystal armor, undefeated in combat. He was the champion of the Empire. He arrived with a military escort, violating Earth's orbital space. His ship broadcast a message that every human could hear. I, Prince Krazathor, first son of King Thrazikul, claim the right of trial by honor. I challenge the humans for custody of my sister, Princess Saralyn, as is my right under Vrexian law. Ji-hoon stood in the communication center and watched the prince's ship hover menacingly over Seoul. Around him, military officers and diplomats argued about the response. Some said they should shoot the ship down for violating their space. Others said that would start a war. What does trial by honor mean? One of the generals asked. Saralyn's voice came from behind them. She had rushed to the center when she heard, "It means combat. Single combat between my brother and whoever claims guardianship over me." She looked at Ji-hoon, fear clear on her face. "My brother has killed hundreds of warriors. He is undefeated. Then we refuse the challenge," the general said. "We cannot," Saralyn said quietly. "Under galactic law, refusing a trial by honor means forfeiting the claim. I would be returned to my father by default." Ji-hoon felt everyone looking at him. He was a diplomat, not a soldier. He had basic self-defense training, but nothing that would prepare him to fight a Vrexian champion. "There has to be another way," Ambassador Chen said. Ji-hoon thought about the laws Saralyn had taught him over the past months. She had shared so much about her culture, trying to help him understand. He remembered something she had mentioned in passing. "The challenged chooses the nature of the trial," he said slowly. Saralyn nodded. "Yes. But the trial must still be a test of worth. Combat is traditional, but..." Her eyes widened. "You are thinking of something. Trial by honor is supposed to prove who is worthy of guardianship. Combat proves strength. But is that the only measure of worth? No. The law allows for any trial that tests wisdom, courage, and commitment." "What about negotiation under pressure?" Saralyn's mouth opened slightly. "That is an ancient form. It has not been used in centuries. But yes, it is legal. Both parties must face a shared danger while arguing their case. It tests whether you can think clearly under stress, whether you can communicate, whether you value life." She looked at him with something like hope. "My brother is trained for combat. He is not trained for diplomacy." Ji-hoon turned to the communication officer. "Open a channel to Prince Krazathor's ship." The screen lit up. Prince Krazathor glared down at him. The prince was terrifying to look at, all sharp edges and barely contained violence. "You are the human who dares claim my sister?" "I am. And I accept your challenge. But as the challenged party, I choose the nature of the trial. We will undergo negotiation under pressure." The prince's expression twisted with confusion and then anger. "You dare." "The law is clear," Ji-hoon said calmly. "You issued the challenge. I choose the trial. Unless you wish to withdraw your challenge." That was clever. If Krazathor withdrew, he would look weak. Vrexian culture valued strength above all. He was trapped by his own traditions. "I accept," the prince growled. 3 days. Prepare yourself, human. I will prove my worth and reclaim what belongs to my family. The screen went dark. Sarah Lynn looked at Ji-hoon with fear and pride mixed together. You may have just saved my life. Or doomed yourself. We'll see, Ji-hoon said. Now, help me understand everything about your brother. We have 3 days to prepare. The trial arena was built in orbit above Earth. It wasn't a combat ring, but a simulation of a failing space station. The Galaxy Council had insisted on observing, so hundreds of species watched through broadcast feeds. Some were curious. Most expected to see a human die. Ji-hoon stood in the preparation room, checking his equipment. Cyrilyn had spent the last 3 days teaching him everything she could about Vrexian law, her brother's personality, and the rules of negotiation under pressure. She stood beside him now, her hands trembling. You do not have to do this, she said for the 10th time. There must be another way. There isn't, Ji-hoon turned to face her. And even if there was, I would still choose this. You're my daughter now. That's not just words. That means I protect you. Humans are strange, she said. But her voice was soft with emotion. You fight for people who cannot fight for themselves. Even when it costs you. That's not strange. That's just right. A buzzer sounded. It was time. The trial arena was massive. It looked exactly like an old mining station. The kind that had been abandoned throughout the galaxy. Corridors stretched in multiple directions. Warning lights flashed. Wartaker CP. Computer voices announced system failures in steady, emotionless tones. Oxygen levels critical. Life support failing. Reactor containment at 60%. Prince Kraz Thor stood at one end of the main corridor. Up close, he was even more intimidating than on screen. His crystal armor was perfect, unmarked by any flaw. His eyes were cold and sharp. He looked at Ji-hoon the way someone might look at an insect. You are a fool, human. This trial will expose your weakness. The trial hasn't started yet, Ji-hoon said calmly. Maybe save the speeches. A hologram appeared between them. It showed the Galaxy Council's arbitrator, a thin alien with too many eyes. The trial begins now. Both parties must work to prevent the station's destruction while presenting arguments for guardianship. The trial ends when the station is saved or when one party concedes. Verbal arguments may be presented at any time. Begin. Immediately, alarms blared louder. Critical failure in Sector 7. Radiation leak detected. Kraz Thor moved toward one of the control panels. His massive hands worked the controls with surprising speed. I claim guardianship through blood, right. She is Vrexian. She belongs with Vrexians. Ji-hoon headed to a different panel, checking the station's systems. Saralyn had taught him how to read Vrexian interfaces. She is not fit to make that choice. Kraz Thor rerouted power from one system to another. She is defective. She requires guidance from those who understand her limitations. Her limitations? Ji-hoon worked to stabilize an overloading circuit. She's published 3 papers that are changing how the galaxy approaches technology. She's solved problems that your empire's best engineers couldn't figure out. What? Limitations. She cannot fight. She cannot serve the empire. She brings shame to our bloodline. Is that all your people value? Fighting? We value strength. Kraz Thor slammed his fist on a panel, making the whole station shake. Strength protects. Strength builds. Strength matters. There are different kinds of strength. Ji-hoon moved to another section. Saralyn has strength you've never learned to recognize. Reactor core at 40%. Containment failure in 10 minutes. Both of them worked faster. The station was dying around them, systems cascading toward failure. This was the test. Could they think clearly while danger pressed in from all sides? Kraz Thor climbed up to a higher platform to access damaged systems. You think you understand my sister better than her own family? I think her family never tried to understand her at all. Ji-hoon rerouted coolant flow. When did you last speak to her? Really speak to her? Well, she is not important enough for my time. Then you've already lost this trial. Coolant system failing. Heat levels rising. Krozthor roared in frustration. One of the panels was stuck, too small for his massive hands to work properly. He smashed it. But that only made things worse. Sparks flew. Another system went offline. Jihoon kept working steadily. You say you want guardianship. Tell me 3 things about your sister. What? 3 things. Favorite color, what makes her happy, what she dreams about. If you're her guardian, you should know. Krozthor was silent. He moved to another panel, his movements becoming more aggressive and less precise. You can't answer, can you? Jihoon said quietly. You don't know her at all. I know she is Vrexian. I know she carries our blood. That is what matters. I know she carries our blood. I know she carries our blood. No. Jihoon stopped working and looked up at the prince. That's what's easy. Knowing someone, really knowing them, is hard. It takes time. It takes paying attention. It takes caring about more than what they can do for you. Main power at 20%. Life support failing. You speak of caring? Krozthor climbed back down. You, who took her from her homeworld? You are a thief. I'm someone who saw her when everyone else looked away. Jihoon's voice was steady. I know she likes tea in the morning. I know she works best in quiet spaces with good light. I know she hums when she's focused, and that she's teaching herself to paint because she likes how colors blend. I know she has nightmares sometimes about her life before Earth, and I know she's building something beautiful despite all the cruelty she's survived. Krozthor had stopped working. He was staring at Jihoon. I know she's brilliant, Jihoon continued. I know she's kind. I know she's brave enough to leave behind everything she's ever known for a chance at something better. I know she's scared of disappointing people because she's been told her entire life that she's a disappointment. And I know that's a lie. Emergency. Critical system failure in Sector 3. Manual repair. Required. They both looked at the display. Sector 3 required someone to crawl through a narrow maintenance tunnel to reset the reactor containment manually. The tunnel was barely a meter wide. Krozthor moved toward it, then stopped. His body was too large. He wouldn't fit. Jihoon started forward, but then the door to the trial arena opened. Saralyn stepped through. What are you doing? Jihoon shouted. You're not supposed to be here. I know. She moved quickly toward the maintenance tunnel. But I am the only one small enough to reach the reactor controls. Saralyn, no. Final warning. Reactor failure in 2 minutes. She looked at Jihoon with clear eyes. You taught me that family protects each other. Let me protect you. Before anyone could stop her, she climbed into the tunnel. Krozthor stood frozen, watching his sister disappear into the narrow space. For the first time, Jihoon saw something other than arrogance on the prince's face. He saw shock. Maybe even fear. She will die in there if the reactor goes critical, Krozthor said. Then help me stabilize the other systems. Give her time. For a moment, Jihoon thought the prince would refuse. Then, slowly, Krozthor moved to a control panel. He worked alongside Jihoon. Their movements coordinated for the first time. Inside the tunnel, they could hear Saralyn's voice over the comm. I see the manual controls. They are damaged. I need to reconfigure them. Can you do it? Jihoon asked. Yes, but it will take 90 seconds. Maybe more. Reactor failure in 90 seconds. Jihoon and Krozthor worked frantically. They rerouted every spare bit of power to the containment field. They shut down non-essential systems. Jihoon. They did everything they could to buy Saralyn a few more seconds. I have it. Saralyn's voice was strained. Resetting. Now. The station shuddered. Alarms blared. Then, slowly, the red warning lights turned to yellow, then to green. Reactor containment restored. Systems stabilizing. Systems stabilizing. Cyrillin emerged from the tunnel. Her fractured crystals were covered in soot. Her hands were shaking. But she was smiling. Ji-hoon pulled her into a hug, not caring about protocol or propriety. You scared me. I am sorry. But you would have done the same for me. When they separated, Krasus Thor was standing very still. He was looking at his sister like he had never seen her before. You saved us, he said quietly. Both of us. Yes. I could not fit through that tunnel. I was useless. You helped stabilize the systems. That gave me time. Krasus Thor's crystal armor seemed to dim. He knelt down, bringing himself closer to his sister's height. I did not know you could do that. I did not know you could do any of the things he says you do. You never asked. No. The prince looked at the ground. I did not. Because father said you were worthless. And I believed him. I never questioned. I never looked. He raised his eyes to meet hers. I have been a poor brother. Cyrillin didn't answer right away. When she spoke, her voice was careful. Yes, you have. I came here to take you home. I thought I was doing the right thing. He gestured at Ji-hoon. But he knows you better in 6 months than I have known you in your entire life. That shames me more than any defeat in combat ever could. The prince stood and turned to the watching Galaxy Council. I withdraw my challenge. My sister should choose her own guardian. And she has already chosen. 1 year had passed since the trial. Cyrillin stood at a podium in the Galaxy Council chamber. This was the same room where her father had given her away as a joke. Now, she was here by choice, invited to speak. The chamber was full. Every species wanted to hear what the unwanted princess had to say. She wore human-style clothing now. Simple and comfortable. Her fractured crystals caught the light, no longer hidden in shame but displayed proudly. She looked out at the assembled aliens and felt no fear. Ji-hoon sat in the human delegation section, giving her an encouraging nod. 1 year ago, she began, I stood in this chamber as property being transferred from one owner to another. I was a joke, something to laugh at. My father gave me to the humans because I was worthless to him, and he wanted to insult them. There was uncomfortable shifting in the audience. King Thrazukul was not present. He had been forced to step down from his throne 6 months ago, after the truth about the termination order came out. I was told my entire life that I had no value. I was defective, weak, a shame to my bloodline. She gestured to her fractured crystals. This body that I have, it does not meet Vrexian standards for strength. It cannot fight. It cannot crush enemies. By my people's measure, it is broken. She pulled up a hologram. It showed the communication interface she had designed, now in use on 40 planets. But this body can create. These hands can build things that warriors cannot. This mind can solve problems that strength cannot touch. More holograms appeared. Medical devices. Improved ship engines. Safety systems that had saved thousands of lives. All designed by her. I am not defective. I am different. And the humans understood something that my own people did not. Different is not the same as worthless. She looked directly at the section where the Vrexian delegation sat. Krasus Thor was there now, representing their people. He met her eyes and nodded slightly. My brother learned this lesson. It brought him shame at first, to realize how blind he had been. But he chose to grow from that shame, rather than hide it. She smiled at him. He has been working to change our culture, to make space for Vrexians who are not warriors. It is slow work, but it is important work. Cyrillin turned to address the full council. I am here today because Earth has asked me to speak about individual rights, about the right to choose your own path, about the right to be valued for who you are, not just what your culture says you should be. She pulled up statistics. In the past year, 17 species have contacted Earth about asylum cases. People who are considered unfit by their cultures. People who would be executed, exiled, or imprisoned for being different. Earth has accepted 42 of these individuals. Murmuring spread through the chamber. Some species looked uncomfortable. I understand this makes many of you uneasy. You see it as humans interfering with your sovereignty, disrespecting your traditions. Sarah Lynn's voice remained calm. But I ask you to consider, what is tradition worth if it requires throwing away people who could contribute something valuable? She pulled up profiles. A creche scientist who was blind but had developed new agricultural techniques. A Gorath child born without their species' natural armor, who had become a gifted mediator. A Finn who couldn't fly but had designed better space navigation systems. Every one of these people was considered worthless by their cultures. Every one of them has gone on to do remarkable things when given the chance. She paused. How many more are out there? How many brilliant minds, kind hearts, and unique talents are being wasted because they don't fit someone's idea of normal? A creche ambassador stood up, his mandibles clicking aggressively. You speak of interference, of humans destroying our cultures. No, Sarah Lynn said firmly. I speak of humans offering a choice. No one is forced to accept asylum. No one is taken against their will. But for those who want another option, Earth has opened their doors. She looked at the creche ambassador. Is your culture so fragile that it cannot survive the existence of alternatives? The ambassador sat down, looking angry but having no good response. Another voice came from the Tellian section. The princess makes interesting points. But she is one case. How do we know this is not simply taking advantage of the vulnerable? Calm. Rees. Jihoon stood up. May I address that concern? The council moderator nodded. Jihoon walked to stand beside Sarah Lynn. I have been asked many times why humans do this. Why we take in people that other species reject. Some think we are collecting allies. Some think we are trying to undermine other cultures. Some think we are simply naive. He looked around the chamber. The truth is simpler. We do it because we believe every person has value. Not potential value. Not value if they meet certain criteria. Just value, inherent and undeniable, simply because they exist. That is idealistic foolishness, someone muttered. Maybe, Jihoon said. But it's foolishness that has led to remarkable discoveries. Sarah Lynn's work, alone, has improved quality of life on dozens of worlds, and she's just one person we were told was worthless. He pulled up more data. In the year since we started formal asylum programs, the 42 individuals Earth has welcomed have filed 67 patents, published 93 research papers, created 8 new artistic movements, and contributed to our understanding of science, medicine, and culture in ways we never expected. They are contributing because you are exploiting them, another voice called out. They are contributing because they want to, Sarah Lynn said. Because for the first time in their lives, someone believed they could. There was a long silence. Then Kraz Thor stood up in the Vrexian section. I wish to speak. The moderator looked surprised, but nodded. Kraz Thor approached the center platform. He was still massive, still intimidating, but something in his bearing had changed. He carried himself with less arrogance, more thoughtfulness. 1 year ago, I came to Earth to reclaim my sister. I believed I was doing my duty. I believed I was protecting my family's honor. He looked at Sarah Lynn. I was wrong. My sister did not need protection. She needed freedom. She needed someone to see her as she truly was. He turned to the council. I have spent this year learning about the Vrexians who are not warriors. The ones we have pushed aside, hidden away, or killed. There are more than I ever knew. Engineers, artists, thinkers. All told, they have no value because they cannot fight. His voice grew stronger. I propose a change to Vrexian law. No citizen should be terminated for physical differences. No citizen should be denied education based on their body's capabilities. No citizen should be told they are worthless. He paused. My sister has shown me that true strength comes in many forms. It is time my people learned this lesson. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. A Vrexian prince, proposing such radical change. Over the next hours, the debate continued. Some species supported the new asylum policies, others opposed them fiercely. But something had shifted. They could no longer dismiss the issue. They had to face it. In the end, the Galaxy Council didn't pass sweeping reforms, but they did establish a formal process for asylum requests. They created guidelines for treatment of individuals deemed unfit by their cultures. It wasn't everything Earth wanted, but it was a start. When the session finally ended, Sarah Lynn found Ji-hoon in the hallway outside. She was exhausted, but satisfied. You did well, he said. I was terrified. I know, you did it anyway. That's courage. Kraz Thor approached them, moving carefully through the corridor designed for smaller species. Sister? Ji-hoon. He still stumbled slightly over the human name. I wanted to say, I am grateful for what you have taught me. You taught yourself, Sarah Lynn said. You chose to listen. That was your own strength. Will you visit Vrexus Prime? He asked. Many want to meet you. The ones like you, who were told they had no worth. You give them hope. Sarah Lynn looked at Ji-hoon. He squeezed her hand. It's your choice. I will visit, she said. But Earth is my home now. Kraz Thor nodded. I understand. Home is not always where you are born. Sometimes, it is where you are valued. That evening, Sarah Lynn and Ji-hoon returned to their residence on Earth. The house was fuller now. 3 other refugees lived with them. A blind Kresh, who was learning to compose music. A young Gorath who wanted to study medicine. A Finn who was writing poetry. They were all in the common room when Sarah Lynn and Ji-hoon arrived. They looked up. Hopefully. How did it go? The Kresh asked. We won, Sarah Lynn said simply. There were cheers and chittering and joyful whistles. They gathered around, asking questions, celebrating this small victory. Later, when the house was quiet, Sarah Lynn stood in her workshop. She was working on a new project, a universal translator that could handle emotional context, not just words. It would help species understand each other better. Ji-hoon found her there. You should rest. It was a long day. I know. I will soon. She set down her tools and turned to him. Ji-hoon, do you remember that day in the Galaxy Council chamber? When my father gave me away? Yes. Everyone laughed. They thought my father was making a joke, giving the humans his worthless daughter. She smiled. But the joke was on them. Because you saw what they could not. You saw that I had value. You always had value. I just had the privilege of being there when you discovered it for yourself. The galaxy called me unwanted. But I was wanted. By you. By Earth. By all the people who believed I could be more than what I was told I must be. She looked around her workshop, at all the projects and possibilities. I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure others know they are wanted too. Ji-hoon pulled her into a hug. You already are. Somewhere out in the galaxy, there were others like Sarah Lynn. People told they were worthless. People pushed aside and forgotten. People who could be extraordinary if someone just gave them the chance. And now there was a place for them. Earth's doors were open. The word was spreading. The Galaxy Council had laughed when humanity inherited the unwanted princess. But humanity had the last laugh. Because they understood something the Council was only beginning to learn. Everyone has worth. Everyone deserves a chance. And sometimes, the people others throw away turn out to be the ones who change the world.